the coming of the King of the Jews. 16 saints salute for him.
Hello, this is Dr. Gregg Mays with your Word Wednesday. This week, I want to talk about this reality. God's victories are overwhelming and unexplainable. When you have a victory in God, oftentimes you just can't explain it. You're thinking, I don't know how that happened. Many weeks ago, I shared with you my testimony from a almost flat tire I had in Flagstaff, Arizona, or avoided a flat tire and really a catastrophic problem. I can't explain that. It's overwhelming and it's unexplainable. And that's how God's victories are. This week, I want to take you into the book of Judges. And we meet a man named Gideon. Now, Gideon, as you read in chapter 6, Gideon was from the weakest tribe, the weakest family, and he himself was self-proclaimed the weakest person in his family. But isn't that who God wants to use? When you feel like you're not good enough, you're not worthy, you better get ready, because God is going to be ready to use you, because that's who he wants. He wants humble people. We're not talking about people who are falsely humble. You're really scared and you don't believe in yourself and you're not even trying. You don't even want to give God a chance. He can work with you, but at some point you've got to avail yourself to him. Moses, even though he started out the way he did, ultimately he availed himself to God. So we have to do that. And Gideon was having trouble, and so he says, hey, he pulls out this fleece and put dew on it and don't put dew around it, or put dew around it and don't put dew. He wanted God to give signs. And you can read about that in Gideon chapter 6. So eventually Gideon says, okay, God, I'm yours. Do with me what you want. And so Gideon takes 32,000 men and they start to go, and God says, oh, it's too many. So he says, hey, tells Gideon to tell anyone who wants to go home, tell them go home, no harm, no foul. 10,000 men leave. God says, still too many. There's 22,000 soldiers, still too many. So he takes them down to the water and he says, separate them this way. You can read about it in chapter 6 of Judges. And so ultimately Gideon gets down to 300 men. And God says, all right, watch this. In chapter 7, God says, the Lord said to Gideon, with the 300 men that lapped the water, I will save you and give the Midianites into your hands. Let all the others go home. And so God is saying, I don't need no big army. I just need these 300. Watch what I'll do. Watch my unexplainable, overwhelming victory that I'm about to have through you. And so as we move forward, we see Gideon. He goes down to the Midianite army. He sneaks down there. He hears two men talking. One tells of a dream, and Gideon realizes, oh, God really is going to save them into my hands. And so I'm skipping all the way to Judges 7, verse 22. And watch this. Judges 7, verse 22 says, when the 300 trumpets sounded, so all they did was sound trumpets. That's what Gideon's army did. They sounded trumpets. It said, the Lord caused the men throughout the camp to turn on each other with their swords. The army fled to Beth Shittah toward Zererah, as far as the border of Abel Meholah near Tabith. Listen to me. The Gideon's army, the Israel army, the 300 men blew trumpets, but they didn't have to lift a hand. God fought that battle. That victory was unexplainable. It was overwhelming. Why? Because in God, your victories, you won't be able to explain it. You'll just be able to say, I know it was God. That's all you'll be able to say. I know it was God. You won't be able to figure it out. And that's what God wants. Don't sit around trying to justify something that happened that God did for you. Just share the testimony and tell whoever you're sharing the testimony with, I believe that this was God working on my behalf. It's unexplainable. It's overwhelming. And if they choose not to believe, that's on them. But you believe, you trust, because you know exactly what happened. I pray that this is a blessing for you. Remember, stay strong.
All rise for the coming of the King of the Jews. 16 saints salute for him. Bring it.